back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, and my guest in this segment, I'm wearing my Costas shirt to sort of beat him up a little bit because he doesn't have Costas crab cakes, but he can get them. He can have them shipped. He can have the Fadley's crab cake shipped. We're going to be at Fadley's this week for the Maryland Crab Cake Tour on Friday with Dan Roderick. Going to be talking about his amazing play that I caught last week. Baltimore, you have no idea. I'm checking out the Will Schwartz, who was my producer on my TV show back in the 90s, is going to be joining us. We're going to be at Fadley's on Friday morning. Roz Lane from the lottery is going to be there with the holiday scratch-offs for us. And then next Thursday, it is a special rock and roll occasion on the 15th. It is my 31st anniversary in Baltimore radio. We're going to be joined by the great Gina Shock, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer from the Go-Go's, and all of my rock and roll buddies. I'm inviting everyone. If you don't come, it just means you don't love me. It also means you won't get Maryland lottery tickets or have for first crack at my Goodwill and Win donation tchotchkes as well. But we're going to be doing that on the 15th in the afternoon at Costas. The last time I saw this guy, his kids were like little kids, and we were eating crab cakes back in the corner at Costas in Dundalk. Mike Flynn joins us now. He is the main event. He, of course, was the center for that Super Bowl team we all forget about back in 2001 because it was so long ago. It was so long ago.
Hey, it's funny that you mentioned Gina Shock, the drummer from the Go-Go's. So I'm sure you saw the documentary about that group, correct?
I did, of course.
Phenomenal. How, all-woman rock band, right, back then was like, blew your mind, right? Believe it or not, they could play the guitar and play the goddamn drums. You know what I mean? Like, but people were shocked by it, right? And did you see that part where they go over to Europe and they were yelling at them? They were dealing, and they just fought back. I mean, it was an amazing documentary. But the reason why I bring this up, she started talking. I'm like, where do I know that accident? Good old Baltimore, baby. I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know much about the Go-Go's other than that. It's a Go-Go's,
You're just
right?
Watching it with Mary, and it comes on, and you hear the accent. Right?
I was like, boom. I was like, oh, yeah, be more, baby. Oh, she was a badass, too.
That is exactly what John Allen said. John Allen's one of my best friends in the whole world. He, of course, was the drummer in Child's Play, singing now in Charm City Devils and in SR-71 and his band Stone Horses. John came over, and John and I are life for friends. I mean, we were locker mates in 7th grade at Holabird Middle School. I mean, he's one of my oldest friends in the world. He was a rock star, right? And he came over. He wanted to be a part of it because he had never met her. And he and I were out drinking wine one night, we go to concerts together. He's one of my buddies, in the real world. I don't have a whole lot of those, but he's one of them. And he's like, my God, she's so Dundalk. We gotta know her, man.
Oh my God, oozing.
So she came 2 months ago. She was in town. I had never met her. She's on my bucket list. By the way, I've never met John Waters. I've never had John. He is. It's big having you on. It's even better when I have Matt Burke on. This.
Of course it's better. But listen, I'm no John Waters. I don't like. I mean, I may not be the bottom of the round. I'm not John Waters. I get it.
But I had always wanted to have her on. She was like totally on my bucket list. She showed up on my timeline. At 6:30 in the morning. She was over at the Bay. She had a book. She was the photographer in the band and the videographer. So all of the throwing up backstage, that's all her work.
She's got it. I know she's got it all.
So she's got the book, and we didn't even get a chance to she showed up at Drug City in Dundalk on the day it was serendipity, man. Like, she was in town. I was doing a show in Dundalk. Her family still lit. Like, she came over, and she had to leave because she was doing a book signing, and she did not want to leave. She's like, well, I'm coming back for the holidays. We got to get crabs. So we're doing this thing to honor Gina Shock, to really sit and talk to her, because we didn't.
That's awesome.
We just scratched the surface of about 20 minutes of conversation, and she had
it's a hell of it. Like, you see the documentary, it's a hell of a story. I mean, obviously, you could sit with her for 10 hours and really say to yourself, we didn't get it. We need more time, but I just love it though, because my thought was this, right? Playing down there so long, that accent, and like most people were like, oh, where's she from? What's that? I'm like,
see, I thought your mother and father had the accent.
Like, what's that?
Your parents had the weird accent.
That's what I'm saying. You probably think my parents had an accent. I'm like, no, you got the, but I mean, it is like very distinctive. And I was like, oh, she's from, but before you got her background, I knew right away, where she's from. But yeah, it was just funny. That's awesome though. I mean, I would love to listen to her talk. I'm sure she's got some great stories. That'll be
you'd love to come to Costas and just eat the crab cakes. All right, Flinner, let's catch up here. In all sincerity, the football team, backup quarterbacks, winning AFC North, I mean, these games look like the easy games on the schedule when they came out back in the beginning of the year. I mean, the Ravens are in a really precarious situation right now, and the defense hasn't been great. They're going to lose Queen for a little bit here. This doesn't feel like what I see when I watch the Bengals and the Chiefs play and the Bills play right now and say, oh, I know what that looks like. That looks like quality. What the Ravens look like is lost potential to some degree right now.
Yeah, I think they've struggling offensively, right? I mean, you can't score 10 points. I mean, since the bye week, they've really struggled offensively. Now, it was okay at first, right? Steelers struggling, Browns struggling, and for up until probably about the last 2 or 3 weeks, really the Bengals were an average team at best, right? A lot of
That
holes
wide receiver coming back
were,
changes
yeah,
everything for them, right?
yeah, they were injured, so they weren't playing well. But now you see over the last couple of weeks what level they're at, and certainly the Chiefs and the Bills are at the top. And even the Bills for a little bit, right, were struggling because whatever it was, Josh Allen was good in moments, but he was struggling, right, making some bad decisions. But if they can win the division, which is a big question mark at this point, how good Cincinnati's playing, but the AFC besides Kansas City and the Bills, I still think is open. It's open to at least make a run, but with Lamar being out and the situation, whether you love him or hate him, and I'm sure, like, to me, I don't get it. Every quarterback has flaws, but he's a special player. And my argument with quarterbacks, like, fine, you don't want to pay him $250 million. Well, what's the alternative? That's always the question you ask yourself as a fan or an organization. But without him, yeah, they have potential to struggle here over the next couple of weeks. And if you look at that playoff picture, you bump out of the division lead, boom, you're in a dogfight with the Chargers and the Patriots and, just trying to get into the playoffs. So, they're struggling offensively. That'd be a bigger concern for me them than their defense. But, they don't score a lot of points. It's hard to win in the NFL if you don't score points.
For you, you said you don't get it. What don't you get in regard to the Lamar thing?
Listen, I'm not naive of what player he is. Like, I look at Lamar Jackson. Yeah, you need to be more consistent from the pocket in the playoff atmosphere to win a Super Bowl. But my thought is he's a phenomenal player. You're going to win with him. Okay. If there are people you don't want to pay him or don't think he's worth what he's asking for, I always thought, well, what's the alternative in the NFL world? It's very hard to, like, in the NBA, it's very defined, right? You either have or have not. If you have the guys, you're going to try to win. If not, you'll just try to tank. I don't know if that works in football to just necessarily just go and tank, right? Because of, fan bases and putting butts in the seats. And, like, it's just hard to do. And plus, it's hard because there's a lot of moving parts on a football team. So if Lamar Jackson would go somewhere else, you look for alternative at quarterback. Like, what's the guy? Look at the year, you had Mac Jones come out, and it was Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, and there's a couple other guys, right? That would be considered a good class because of the number of guys drafted in the first. I mean,
how many playoff games have those guys won?
But would you want those guys? Like, like, you're locked into what's your future with those guys? And you look at the years before, it's just very hard to find that guy. And I would say, having a guy like Lamar Jackson and
But is he
making
that
it
guy
work.
3 years from now, Flynn, at $52 million a year, guaranteed?
What's that?
Is he that guy 3 years from now at $52 million a year at 28? Is he still that guy? Because you have to pay him to be that guy now. You're going to pay him to be that guy for 5 years.
I think he could be that guy in 3 years, barring injury. Now you start getting the other side of 30, then it's a little different conversation. And it's funny because the one thing I do is unfortunately up here, and I mean, you don't need to deal with that because if you don't go to a game, right, the local game is the Ravens. No matter what's on, they're going to put the Ravens on. Well, in Boston, it's New England. So I was forced to get, the NFL package. So we watch a lot of the games. And my son now has become a diehard Ravens fan. And we'll watch the game. He gets very upset when he watches the game. And it's always like, why is he running more? Why doesn't he do this? So you could, I mean, I noticed there's a conscious effort to make more plays, from the pocket, making those decisions. And I saw, you watch a couple of those games that he lost, like down the stretch, he didn't play as well. But, I just don't know what's your alternative. I know money is a factor, but it's cap money. Okay. You need to invest in a guy. And if 3 years it doesn't work out, The Ravens do as good as anybody is cutting bait with guys and eventually turning things around within a year or two. But, I think he could be that guy certainly in 3 years from now. 4 or 5 years from now, yeah. I mean, certainly, when you rely on your legs and you're running power read and read options and rollouts and you're running the quarterback, certainly. But that's a running back, right? That's a receiver. And certainly the way receivers are built and quarterbacks are built, you open yourself up to some hits that, running backs don't necessarily how they're built and how they run. But yeah, I still think he could be that guy. And I still think they could win now. It's going to be tough to beat Kansas City and Buffalo just because of the quality of talent they have, the quality of those quarterbacks. But it's possible. I mean, it is, but you won't do it without Lamar Jackson.
I think if I write this week my columnists, as I start to get ideas from talking to people like you that are way smarter than me, one of the reasons they threw me out is they don't like my questions, right? And one of my base questions is no one else wanted to draft this guy because running into linebackers 140 to 220 times a year is not a great idea ever. It's not a great idea when you lose running backs in preseason games in Washington a year and a half ago, right? That you're going to take on that kind of contact in that significant kind of way year after year like a running back and think that you're going to get the best version of that person in December. Flynn, I don't need to tell you, man. I remember your body getting beaten up in those years, and I remember how 30 felt different than 24 for you. And like seeing this now, the third year, right? So 3 years ago, things slowed down in the middle of the year for him. The COVID thing happened for him, apparently unvaccinated. Last year, real injury took him out the rest of the year. And I'll tell you what, Harbaugh's just such a terrible liar. But he came out to the press conference on Monday, and I watched him on video. He looked ashen. He looked like they weren't 8-4. They weren't in first place. They didn't win on Sunday. It looked like a lot more concern than, oh, Lamar's not going to play this week, but he'll be okay next week. I don't believe that. And I think it's really hard to project this when you're in the draft room and you're saying, we love the kid, we love the athlete, we love the person, we love the style, we love zigging instead of zagging, and we're going to play a different style. We're going to draft around that, and we're going to be able to get cheaper players and build our defense and like all of that, right? I'll hear all of that smart. I write books on that stuff. But at the end of the day, running into linebackers 12 to 20 times a game, every game, stacked up into week 10, 12, 14, 16, and then having to go win games this time of year, they're 0 for 3 right now. He hasn't really been healthy at this point. Thanksgiving time into the holidays, weather changing. He doesn't like the cold. I mean, he looks like a guy that doesn't like he looks like me. I don't like the cold either. So there's all of this, and this is what would concern me. And not, I love the kid. He wins a lot of games. It's great. Can he really be healthy at Christmas time ever playing this style of football?
Well, I don't know if they run him as much as they have in the past, but to your
He
point,
runs himself when they get in trouble.
it is
Right?
it
When they
is
get behind
hard.
in the third quarter, he's running. That's what he's doing.
Yes, football is a game of attrition. Okay, and as I step back over the last 15 years watching it as a fan or analyst as opposed to playing in it, I realize what kind of game this is, right? And positional players constantly are missing games, right? They get beat up. And how do you get yourself ready to go come playoff time? Because there is an expectation in football, unlike some other sports where maybe during the week practice wise, but in terms of missing games, there's no maintenance stage, right? We're not saving yourself for a couple of weeks from now or the playoffs. Guys just play. So the quarterback position, his build, right? How he runs, in a way they're, some of the set pieces, but he's running in space, right? He can dictate a little bit how he gets hit, but still, like they're going to catch you. They always do. NFL guys are going to catch you at some point. And the style that they implemented a few years ago, right, kind of came from college. It's funny how, to me, I think like innovation comes like to a degree from high school to college and then to the pro game. Okay. Because, the high school and college level, right, you're dealing with, oh, I have these certain players, right? I need to make a system to fit and work with them, right? And eventually, a lot of these systems get up to the professional game because they're a little bit more conservative, right? They are just, well, this is the way we've always kind of done it. So it was Wildcat for 1 year, a couple of years. Remember when the Dolphins broke that out, and then Um, with the
Tim
RPO game
Tebow.
now. What's
Yeah,
that?
Tim
Tim
Tebow.
Tebow to agree. RPO game, the power read stuff. But eventually, right? Then it's like, okay, this is our standard. This is those college guys now that ran that are in the pros. Well, defensive coordinators adjust. And the biggest thing is when you run these RPOs and you run read options with the quarterback, okay, when you're in high school and college, you're running against guys that maybe aren't as talented athletically and aren't as smart, right? Now you get to the pro game, and these guys are high end athletes, as good as there is, and they're smart as hell, right? So you're playing scheme. So when they go into the game, they're not going to constantly like, oh, it's a dive. I'm going to go fall for the dive. Or when they run an RPO, the backside running back or the safety is not coming up trying to make a play on the running back because they know your responsibility is coverage, right? So all these things get squeezed and they get better at it. And that's what they are. They're better. I mean, they're still effective, don't get me wrong, but they get better at it. So, eventually it goes back to you need to be able to drop back and deliver the ball from the pocket to win in the playoffs. And I'll always, in the professional level, I'll never go away from that because you have to. You need to be able to throw consistently from the pocket. And at times, he can, but it's not consistent. But in terms
And then
of,
there's a skill position around him too. Then there's
yeah, well,
somebody
that
has to
doesn't
be
help
open,
him.
right?
I mean, because you watch a lot of these games, and X and O's are great. And I think also you could scheme up more like because I coach high school football now, right? And if you have a guy here or like you're playing a better team or a college, you could scheme up and win some games that way and pat yourself on the back and say you're the best. But at the pro level, a lot of it is all right. they're bringing six. Somebody's got to win. It's simple. Somebody's got to win. You know what I mean? Like you need to beat your guy. End of story. You know what I mean? Up front, offensive line. You got to man up. We could slide this way. We can help you with the tight end. We can help with a back. We could quick throw. But at the end of the day, you need to man up. You need to block Aaron Donald 15 times in that game or we're going to lose. Like at the professional level, it becomes a little bit clearer like that. But I just think, like with your quarterback too, right? That style is awesome. It's winning football in terms of how they use the quarterback, and Greg Roman uses the quarterback. But it's inevitable, right? Everybody gets hurt. And the difference between your running back going out, your right tackle going out, even your best receiver going out, right? It seems like the train just keeps moving. I've lived it, I've seen it. It just moves on. But when the quarterback goes out, everything changes because the system's built around him.
It changes the point spread.
Oh, it changes the point spread. Like I wouldn't change the point spread, but if you had a guy that never played at center or right guard, like yeah, it could affect the game minorly, but it changes point spread. He's the face of the franchise. So yeah, it's it's a risk, I guess, to invest in a guy that maybe plays that style, but he's a dynamic guy and he can win it. But the structure right now, when he's had the moments to play well, whether it's the team, whether it's the system, the players around him, they haven't been able to do it. And now that he's up for a contract, like any player, I don't care how good you are. When Brady was here, who's arguably, the greatest team winner of all time, right? There's a lot of great quarterbacks. He's one of the best, if not the best. But when he would be up for a contract here, the question is like, oh, can he play when he's later? Do you need him? If he takes up this amount of money, Peyton Manning was the same thing. If he takes up this much of the salary cap, how can we build around him? So it doesn't matter who you are when money and contracts, there's going to be debate if a guy is worth it, but being hurt would be my biggest concern. And, I just don't know what your alternative would be because I think Baltimore fans, they have been a successful franchise, as much as you want to tear them apart and criticism, that's fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's sports. But they are a successful franchise that if you don't have Lamar Jackson, what's the next play? Where do you go from there? And
Well, we're
if you
seeing that
don't,
this week with the Steelers after Roethlisberger, right?
yeah,
We didn't have the hangover after Joe, right? Like literally. And during your era, my God, every year you're stepping in spring and meeting your new quarterback.
yeah.
That was your experience in the National Football League was who is
And,
my quarterback?
and for us, like we had such a great defense. And honestly, if you look back too, we had some really good tight ends and running backs too, right? So we could run the ball. We were a physical group, so we kind of figured it out. But you're right; it was always like, who's the next guy, you know? And then Joe Flacco came in, solidified the position, and you kind of got that run of very good football, right? You won a Super Bowl, and then you got Lamar Jackson after, which is very rare. There are some franchises that lose a guy and never find him, you know, and to be in that
Miami.
Miami Jets, but
Well,
that was Joe Namath.
hey, dude, I was going to ask you, this is a good time to interject. Mike Flynn is here. He is, of course, the main event. You can follow him out on Twitter. Sometimes he even does sports radio when he's not having his actor child in New York and coaching football and being a parent of rambunctious young men. You got your own basketball team there. The Patriots, how are they taking it up there that they're suddenly, normal? They're in the phone booth now. They're not Superman.
Not good. I mean, it's like
Good.
not good. I'm reveling in it though. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy it. You're like, oh, you don't win every year and get lucky bounces, right? You post Tom Brady. Mac Jones is not a bad quarterback actually, but they have a couple guys, Bill Belichick, and that's the first chinks in his armor most of the time, and it's hard, right? Like nobody can deny that Bill Belichick is a good coach. I wouldn't. I mean, you don't win as much as you do as a head coach, as a coordinator, and not be a good coach. And you can make a case he's one of the better ones of all time. He is innovative as a Bill Walsh or like Don Coryell, the Chargers, or I'm trying to think who's like maybe Dick LeBeau, some of these guys that reinvented like a 3-4 defense.
But he didn't change the game, but he changed game plans every week because he made you play left-handed.
But in terms of just being a good coach and a grinder and a winner and a detention detail, it's really hard to compare. But with that said, even guys like that could get criticized, right? You mentioned the guys around Lamar Jackson, and I know that Greg Roman has taken a lot of heat the last few weeks around there. So coaches around him, right? Well, Bill Belichick hires basically two guys to run the offense who have never coached offense, never coached the quarterback position, which I find one of the most fascinating things I've ever heard of. Like, I don't even understand that. Like,
it's almost like hiring Jeff Saturday to be a head coach, right? He's got the same qualifications you have.
I think this is worse. And here's why. Because if I was the coach of the Baltimore Ravens today, okay, they hired me, which I'm going to put my hat in the ring to bring me back because I have a better high school record than Jeff Saturday did. And I actually call my own place. So I think, if anything happens, I need an interim guy. I'm going to apply for it.
You're a people person. I mean, I'll give you that.
Yeah. But I mean, a head coach, right? If you have like a bunch of good coordinators, you give a team speech, you motivate the guys, you get structure. Okay. But to actually be the guy that's in the room and you're like, oh, cover 2, we're going to do this, man. They bring the safety. Hey, this is the look. They tilt this on and on and on. Okay. You have all that. Then you need to interact with a quarterback in a quarterback room, which if you're not a quarterback guy or room guy, it's a different room. You know what I mean? It's 3 guys. They're like king tut in there. It's like a totally, you can't be a special teams guy or a line guy and go in there and take that attitude in with quarterbacks. They're going to look at you like, who's this Neanderthal? I'm not listening to this boob. You know what I mean? So you have that. And then, oh, by the way, in real time in an NFL game to call games and to adjust at halftime, adjust in game. Like, I've come to appreciation of the real good ones, how smart they are. You know what I mean? Like when you see it, it's something very impressive. So to me, to hire a guy that doesn't have any experience, it just boggles my mind. I don't even understand it. How you could do that. How could you even, I don't care what you know about football. You know what I mean? Like that's hard to do. That's what they've done. And they're still 6-6, but that's kind of what they've done. They've basically hired you and I. Well, that's
not me, you.
They've hired me to like be a defensive coordinator, like with 0 experience in that. And I know some football, but yeah, so that's kind of where they're at. So that's the first time that, there have been questions like, the old classic, right? When you get old, right? Why is it when you get old, everyone's like, he lost his fastball. He lost it. I'm getting that now. You know what I mean? He lost it.
Well, this is the interesting part for you because you are Jeff Saturday at this point in your life, kids, theater, like games, all that stuff. I would think for a guy like you, and I talked to Stokely about this last week too, because Stokely's son of a coach, like all that, maybe would have some qualification to step in there and do that. And I just think of it from the coaching standpoint of like a guy like you would say, I coach a little football. That's a big job. Like I don't know if I'd want to go have that life of being an
No, besides
NFL
the
coach right
money,
now.
like the money, it would be like I don't know what I mean. He's not getting paid like these top end guys, but you don't get paid $100,000 to coach the Colts. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of dope you are. Right? You got so besides the money part of it, I'd be sit there like, kind of good. Coaching high school football, right? Yes, last night, third and fourth grade hoops. I'm the head coach, teaching the kids defense. No pressure. I love it. You know what I mean? But to go in that environment now where you're going to get guys like you, for example, just media guys
No, I
coming
don't
up
get to ask the questions anymore. That
asking.
is
Well, you
Harbaugh
did
just
ask.
says I don't want him in here anymore. Throw him out, and I'm thrown
Well,
out.
you're
So
asking questions now. I mean, you get these guys, but guys like you asking those hard questions, like why do you suck? Why did you call this? I'm like, I don't know if I want that
how about this
because
one? Why,
he got
why did
hammered, right?
James Prochet wind up throwing a pass into the end zone when you're in field goal range of a 6-point game at home?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, and Harbaugh didn't have any answer. By Monday,
There was no answer.
Harbaugh said it was just a bad play.
There was no answer. It's like when Saturday screwed up the timeouts. There are questions that you ask. There is the only answer is I messed up, and it's okay, right? But coaches can't admit that because if you admit that, then right, it's kind of like
That's a weakness.
what's I'm trying to think of like. Oh, I know what it's like the Jenga game, right? You pull one little block and it starts to wiggle a little bit. Then eventually another one comes, right? Or a deck of cards. You build those like house out of cards, right? You can't admit that there was a mistake because boom, you know what I mean? Then it's gonna all fall apart. But yeah, they're mistakes, you know what I mean? But yeah, to be like Jeff Saturday, to kind of like coaching high school football and loving life to now dealing with the slings and the arrows from the media, the smart ass reporters that want to make you look bad. That's tough.
Oh, that's what we're here for, to make you look bad. Mike
Oh,
Flynn
that's
is
yeah.
here. Yeah, come on, man. You know me better than that. You
No,
got
no,
me
no. I
confused with
don't.
that New England media
I'm
up
not
there.
saying it's always an intention to make somebody look bad. I'm not saying that's your intention, but when you ask the right questions, it could.
I seek to understand is what I seek to do. Mike Flynn is here, so I seek to understand. Give me an update on your boy and Broadway, and give Baltimore a main event update for everyone. Knows what you're up to.
No, just in Boston. My wife's teaching and coaching, coaching football, high school run football camps. My son's back now. He made his last run there with Mrs. Doubtfire, which is on Broadway, and now he's going to high school, real
He's
high
like a
school.
real kid.
Oh, the
How's
first
this
month,
work for him being a state?
the first
You
month and a
mentioned
half was tough. He struggled with it, like because up until from 9 until 15, everything basically was on his time. And he was a good kid. Don't get me wrong, good kid, good student. Like he did well, but it was tutors and a school with like 20 kids in it. You know what I mean? Like
then the
Zooms.
plague happened, literally, right?
Yeah. But, like if he, when he was like, oh, I'm tired today, I had a late night. Hey, Jake, don't worry about it. You can do your test on Wednesday. Don't worry about it. When you go to school now, right? You got 6 periods a day. It's history to chemistry to blah, 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 on and on. And he goes in, his head was ready to explode. It's like, dude, that's what we call real life, my friend. You know what I mean? I go,
It's not all
I go,
learning scripts.
it's not all learning scripts, pumping out, walking around New York City, you know what I mean? Having a coffee in the morning, reading building Legos, like, you know what? And this is only school. Wait till you get to be my age. And it's, so it was like a huge adjustment because like, Dad, I have a test on Thursday. I got a lot of other stuff to do. I don't know if I can study for it. I said, well, the test is on Thursday. You need to make time. So for him being like a normal, well-adjusted human being, it's like been the best thing for him. And you know what? He's adjusted, which is awesome to see. And he's got like a social circle. Like here was a guy that was like, I love Jake, and you've met him. He's very mature for his age, but your best friends can't be 32-year-old dancer and a 54-year-old Tony Award winner and like, your 6-year-old brother. Like that doesn't fly in the social world of a high school sophomore, right? Like you need to have some like interaction, you know what I mean? Like of kids of your own age that have the same interests and stuff like that. So it's been
I
good
love to
for
see the
them.
parent in you. I mean, I really do. Because I remember when the biggest decision was, whether we're going to get the hot sauce or the really hot sauce on the wings.
Oh, I miss it. Oh my God. Remember those days? I'd kill for that. When I went, well, hey, you know what? Do I just want to get a crab cake today? Or do I want to get the crab cake with the soup? You know, because I love like the creamy whites. Or do I want to get crabs? So I got to break them. Those were the days. You know what I mean? Or did I want to go? Do I have a mixed drink or I want to have light beer? You know what I mean? Now it's like nothing's good anymore. Nothing's easy. I mean, as a parent, right? And most people could admit this. They won't admit it to people because everybody's worried about people today. People say, but some of those days you wake up like, oh my God, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And other days you're like, oh my God, it's the
So much
worst thing that ever happened to
responsibility.
me. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But when you have the days where you just get up and you're like, man, this is awesome. Like it's better than any of the worst days and some of the best things I've ever done. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is. I got 4 boys. I mean, they're hard, but they're easy too because they're stupid and they wear their heart on their sleeve. And, when they're mad, they're mad. When they're happy, they're happy. It's kind of simple that way. People tell me I've always wanted a girl, but they said there's a little more to it, right? A little more mine, because I've seen it now. I've seen boys and I've seen my neighbors have girls the same age. And like females, they must look at us and just be like, what is wrong with us? Like
Cavemen. We're cavemen. All of us.
like but it starts it early, but when it's your only world, that's what you do. You're like, you don't understand it, but now I get it. They're so much more intelligent and thoughtful, and they're smart. You know what I mean? I realize now how, we're just, so I would appreciate that around the house.
Girls
But
mature faster than boys. Remember when they used to say that to us?
no, but it's true.
It
Now
is
I
true.
get it.
I know.
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
know what it meant, but I'm still not mature. I'm 48, so like, yes, but yeah, it's great. I mean, I enjoy it. Coach the kids, that kind of stuff. It's what else can you ask for?
I'm proud of how you turned out. So your parents. So and I'm really proud that you got that video to me after all those years. So I have to give you some love. By the way, shout out to
Oh, you got
Towson
to send. You got
Transfers.
to send that back to me.
I have it right on the lay. I know where it is. I'm not going to
Okay.
lose it. Okay. I have it. I mean, you really
Well,
want
no,
it
no,
as a
no.
memento.
I think you're not. Here's the thing. I didn't send it you forever, and I made a lot of hollow promises to send that to you. And I think now you're kind of holding. Like I think now it's like your little payback.
No, it
That
has your handwriting on the side of it, and
no,
it's
I
a
have
little
an air tag on it. I know where it is at all times. It has an air tag. I can look at my phone and no, I haven't.
The
I
entire
still.
video of it is up on YouTube that you could enjoy in full
You know what
quality
though?
anytime
I
you want.
don't look at any of that stuff. I don't. Like I guess I should. Right as you get older, right? You
Have you never
get a
watched it?
little
I mean, have you
nostalgic.
never sat down with your
Never,
family? You've never
never.
seen it? You've
I've never seen it. I mean, I
oh,
saw some of the clips that you posted on YouTube, but there's a lot of stuff on there. I have some other ones of remember Rod Payne? He was on the Super Bowl team. He was a lineman from Michigan.
absolutely, yeah.
I think he was drafted by Cincinnati. And he wasn't suiting up for those games. And now everybody has a phone, right? So it's a little bit different. But back then it was a little bit harder because you'd have to have a video recorder and stuff like that. And so kind of a lot of those moments that I have on those tapes are pretty good, right? It's not as easy as a phone anymore.
So here you go, dude. This
Oh,
is
there it is.
there it is right there. It's up. People are watching and fight.
Oh, that's so cool.
This is your work or my work. Maybe I'm holding the camera at this point, but I can take it back. There's 59 minutes of this, dude. Like you can go
That's
back
not
into any point in the parade, and like we're on Pratt Street here. You can go check it out. So
the no, yeah, but I have some other stuff like, some more intimate stuff in the locker room in terms of like, just some of the guys. I know for a fact, like getting down to
look at
Tampa
you.
and
Look
some
how
of this.
young and good
Oh
looking you
my
were. Look at
God.
that.
Look at that guy.
Look at that guy, right?
Oh, Nestor. Thank you for that. I needed that.
Well,
I
you
needed
wanted the
boost.
tape back, so this is,
I
I'm
want a
giving
little,
you the tape back,
that's
man.
what I tell my wife all the time. Like, it's okay to have a little boost to the ego every now and then, right? Because when you get older, like see that video makes me get a little nostalgic. But back
It
to Rod
shows that
Payton.
you were
What?
great once, for sure, right?
It's better to be great once than never, right? It's like, what is it? Like the Gene Hackman and Hoosiers, like my great line. She's like, what's the big deal? A guy puts a ball in a hole. He goes, hey, it's better to be treated like a god at least once you know what I mean, in your life than never at all or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I enjoyed that time certainly. And like I've, you know, funny that you brought that up. I was gonna like, oh yeah, I got to get that video back from you. But you know, I'm getting to the point now where I would probably show my kids. I think they would really appreciate it. And sometimes, like, I think I'm just a dad, and now it's like when you get out of the game, you figure, oh, I'm just a guy. And I don't mean that like, woe is me. I'm just like, you know, I'm just a dad. I coach high school football. Like, those days are behind you. Like when you play football, right? That's who you were defined as, and it was like great, and people knew who you were, and there was good and bad to that. And certainly, guys like Jonathan Ogden, Ray Lewis dealt with a lot of different things than I did. But now it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just a guy. You know what I mean? Like, but I think sometimes when we talk about the Ravens, I notice my sons would be like, you know, I forget who it was. I think Joe said to me, like, oh man, it would have been cool if I was alive when you were playing there. I was like, damn, man, you know, like I couldn't have done it because I just felt like I had to be all in. Like I couldn't imagine like getting pulled up away from
Well,
football.
Tom
Like,
Brady, I mean, who you knew a little bit, you
well,
played
but
with
I
him
mean,
for a
Tom
minute.
Brady's 40 freaking five. You know, I'm
Right.
talking about when I was like 25 or 30. But there were guys, you know, Jeff Mitchell, like there was Spencer. There's a lot of guys that I played with that had those kids, and they were great. But I didn't know if I could have done it. But then when they say stuff like that, I'm like, oh man, like how cool would it have been? I look back now and I remember, and you see these, you know, Super Bowl videos or all this thing where like, you know, like their kids are out there, and I'm like, and I do get a little
Like
jealous
Eric
of that.
Weddle came back and played for 10 minutes last year, and his kids got to see him win, right? Like,
Yeah. But I mean, so those videos I think could be some sort of like bridge to kind of back to that. I'll get back to it. And like I said, Rod Payne during that time, he's like, hey, Mike, you know what? I'll take the camera for you. So he would basically kind of be that third person. Like it was the, you know, one of the best ones we ever got when we played out in Oakland for the AFC Championship. And I've only seen one, but he's like, you know, I was kind of filming over, and then I say, he goes, hey, Mike, I'll take the camera for the game. So he would get all these candid shots of me and the linemen, some of the other players in the locker room, coaches, the speeches and stuff. And like when we came out for Oakland, and you know, the what do they call that? They don't have that
black
anymore.
hole.
The black hole. I don't know if they have that in Vegas, but it was the black hole. And it was pretty like
Insane.
it was insane. Like, and it wasn't like they were necessarily bad people, but they reveled in that black hole. So they were going to be off the charts, right? But the video was an all timer. They, you know, I'm probably the wall was maybe 5 yards from where we were, you know, warming up, and Rod's over my shoulder taking the video. And I'm not kidding you. There must have been a kid there, probably about 10 years old. Okay. And I can't remember. It could have even been a girl.
30
And
now,
just,
by the way.
what's that?
30 now.
Well, 30 now, but like, you know, yelling and screaming, right? And Rod turned the camera and just this little kid just flips the double bird. You know what I mean? Like, screw you. I can't remember if they said F you, but definitely at least the very least screw you. And like the dad is behind him. Yeah, you know what I mean? It was just, but I have that on video. It's priceless. You know what I mean? Just like, oh,
So you
wonderful
still have
people.
videos that have not been transferred?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. My man, Greg Landry, this is what he does. He's one of our
Yeah.
sponsors, Thousand Transfers. He's the one who literally did the film that I just showed. I mean, he listens regularly,
Oh,
all the
okay.
time. And so he actually came over and picked the tape up the day you sent it to me. And that's how
Yeah.
I turned it around right away. So I can totally, I have a guy,
Of
Thousand
course you have a
Transfers.
guy.
I've got a
You
guy.
can't be in the radio business like you not have a guy.
I got
But yeah, I
31
mean, I think
years.
Nestor, hours. Like I'm talking in the plane in Nashville. You know, like
All right, dude.
um
Let's get those to Towson transfers safely. You
and
seal
you
wrapped,
know,
and we'll.
you know, the good thing is barring, you know, language, it's all above board. I know you're trying to look for some sort of like, you know,
No, no, no.
nefarious
What really
tape,
would
but
have been interesting is NFL Films would have wanted this stuff for the movie they're making
yeah, they
on the
probably do.
team. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they reached to me, and
Oh,
I said
really?
I had. Well, I
Oh,
said I
they
had
probably
your
would have
Super
loved
Bowl
it because
video.
I know there was some like, you know, I think I remember, you know, coming out in Oakland and like, you know, I think David had the trophy, like
Yes,
they
on the Dace.
and
There was a
holding,
Dace.
yeah, holding it up and stuff like that, and the video of that, and on the bus, and then I mean, at the very least, right? The 10-year-old giving me the double birds is freaking gold,
All right,
right?
look,
Like,
dude, we got to do this. Don't make it 23 more years before I get the tape. We'll figure it out.
well, I
We
don't know
got.
if I can make, yeah,
I'm gonna have you send it straight to Greg, man. Like I can middleman it or whatever, but I
Yeah.
don't have the thing to transcribe it, right? You need to
Yeah.
have the recorder
Oh, it's
player.
not like, yeah, like 10 years ago, you could find something online quick, but
This is
now
what
it's all
Greg
like,
does. So Greg's
yeah,
over Towson Transfers. He does this work. Now he hears this piece. He's going to want to do it. So
yeah,
and the most interesting part, by the way, the video's coming out, right? The movie is coming
yeah,
out like next month, I think, in conjunction with the Super Bowl time. That the one piece, because the last time I saw Goose alive was that night at the Lyric, right? Or the Meyerhoff. They had an event at the Meyerhoff in May. Goose died in early June, but 3 weeks before Goose died. And it was Goose, Dilfer, Shannon. They all came in and sat on the stage and told stories. Billick, Marvin, Jack Del Rio, and Kevin Byrne emceed it because Sage Steele got hit with a golf ball. So the place was full of our people, fans, and I mean Kyle Richardson was there. I ran into Femi was there. Some of the local guys came
yeah.
by, and the upshot was, as fans in the seating bowl, they would go to a video from NFL films from that period of time that I think they were looking for reaction from the players, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole thing was made for television, right? Right? Like the live event will be a big part of the conversation, I'm sure, in the end of what the documentary will be about the greatest defense ever. But there's a piece in the Nashville game after it where Billick's pissed after the win. I'm assuming it's the playoff win. And he's like, turn all the effing cameras off, put
Oh,
them
yeah.
down, turn it off. And obviously the one camera stayed on, and I had never seen this. And he's like, F the Tennessee Titans. And the theater went wild. Like, so I'm sure do you have that do you have
I
that?
could. I don't know. I've never looked at it.
Well, that's why I'm
I,
asking you about it, because to
yeah.
me, that would be something really, really special if you happen to
Yeah.
have that.
And that, because Rod would be doing it. So, and,
Would
he
Rod
pretty
take
much,
direction from Brian, or would he just
no,
not listen?
he would do it. Not in a bad way. He would, if he wanted to film, he would have filmed.
All right, good, good, good. All right, that's
But
what.
it was good. It was good stuff. And yeah, you get nostalgic about that. And I look forward to that. I mean, it was a pretty unique team, too. I mean, listen, every Super Bowl team, right? They have their story and this and that. But I just kind of think off the top of my head and think of like, okay, what were some of the most unique teams in terms of like maybe characters and storylines? And like, it's like 85 Bears was an awesome team, right? Like the 70, what was it? The 74, or was the 76 Raiders that won? They finally kind of broke through with Kenny Stabler. You know what I mean? Like, like they're just like the Chiefs are great and the Patriots have some great teams. And like, but when you just think of characters and unique teams, and I think
From a storytelling
Baltimore,
standpoint,
yes,
yeah.
from a storytelling, I think Baltimore would be pretty unique in that sense because it was very, I guess it wasn't like a streamlined team. I don't know how to articulate. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a very rough around the edges team. Does that make a lot? Like it was just not perfect by any stretch, by the visual of it. You see some of our guys, and then of the quarterback situation, and then Brian, and then like some of the other guys. It was just a very unorthodox team, if that, you know what I mean. Like I thought it was pretty unique in that fact. So I'm proud to be a part of something like that. You know what
Well,
I
and your
mean?
kids are going to love that video, right? I mean, that's probably the night you sit the kids on the couch and say, "Hey, this thing's coming on," right?
Oh yeah, we'll watch that. Yeah,
As a family.
yeah.
Good,
I
good.
think the kids will. I can't imagine they wouldn't like that sort of stuff. And it's funny how we've morphed into Ravens household. Um, I that's just what we are now. We're actually coming down. I'm going to go to Costas. We'll be down there for the Steelers game.
All right,
So
well, I'll see you then. All right, I'll
yeah,
be around for
I
the
look forward
holidays.
to it because we didn't go last year because we were supposed to go. One time we got COVID. Which was crazy. We all said, I forget what game we were going to go to. And one time we had, you want to talk about, my son literally cried. Jake was in Seattle for that show. Doubtfire. It was before the Broadway. And I let him know that we were going to go to the AFC Championship game. But they lost to the Titans. And we were watching the game on the plane. We're literally flying home. And we got in the bus. We came out. And he was like teary eyed, and he's like, I don't understand that. How could they lose? I go, they were, I think what year were they? Were 14-2, I think that year.
Yeah, it was 19.
Yeah. Dad, how could they lose? He couldn't understand it.
And that was Marshall's last game, your buddy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, son, I go, you're going to understand, like, if you cheer for a sports team, more often than not, they disappoint you in ways like they lose. It happens. Like, not everybody can win, but like, it was weird because I didn't know he was that invested in anything like that. And I don't know whether he was invested in Ravens or he wanted to go to the game, but it was funny. And I think of like, as a kid, I think of like Ravens fans, and even fans were like, he was just so like, how could they lose that?
See, you mentioned that Raiders team breaking through. And I remember that because Goes to the Post, I was at that game. I was 9 years old with my dad. I remember waiting for the bus after the game, and they had lost to the Raiders after losing to the Steelers the year before, and the Steelers the year before that. So, like, and then they took my team. Then they took my team, Flynn, on a Mayflower. All right, well, listen, let's get together. Start the year off right. You're coming in for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day for the Steelers game. Good.
Yes. We'll be down there.
I will make sure you get the big crabs at Costas, okay?
Oh, it's good. That's what we'll plan. We'll plan. I'll let you know, and I definitely want to bring the boys because I cannot not go down there and not go there. You gotta have.
All right. Well, make sure you get the tapes out too, because we got to get those tapes over. That'd be a lot of fun. 21 years later, I think statute of limitations is all over with. At least I felt that way putting the video up. So yeah. Mike Flynn is here.
Maybe I should watch him first. You know what I mean? Before
I'm not going to unleash it on the world. I'm just going to unleash it on an MP4.
Well, no, but if I ever plan on running for Senate or president or something like that, I don't want.
There's another Mike Flynn that's already crushed you.
That is true, though.
You can never run for anything honorable, dude.
That's right. Because when I start running, they're Google it. I think it's
You're like, I'm the Mike Flynn that's not a traitor. I was a center, not a traitor. Mike, I appreciate you, man. As always, many years, and crab cakes waiting for Mike Flynn. Find him out on the interwebs. He also does some sports radio out in Boston when he's not running around chasing his kids and telling great old stories. I am Nestor. We are WNST, Towson, Baltimore. AM 1570. We never stop talking. Baltimore positive.